Hello, hello, hello. I hope this is working. As always, if you're coming in live, please drop a 1 below. If you're coming in on the replay, drop a 2 below and let myself and everyone else know where you're coming in from. Now, I've had a lot of people reach out to me recently saying, Sally, where have you been? You haven't been as active as you once were. So I do apologize to those who have noticed and maybe have missed some of my absence. So today I wanted to jump on really quickly and share with you some insights that I had the opportunity to share with a group of women last night for a She Mentors community event. So before we get started, I think it's really important to acknowledge that we all know over the last couple of months, the world has completely changed. And that includes how people are using social media platforms, including the likes of LinkedIn. So what's important is that we appreciate the context in which we're operating before I share these insights with you. So a couple of key things to highlight is that what's happened over the last couple of months is because of the way the world has changed. Hi, Connie. More people are online more of the time. Now, we've seen that on LinkedIn. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Jessica. Thanks, Jess. We've seen the way that people are using social media drastically change. So people are online more of the time. More people are also starting to create content. And this has been really interesting to watch on the LinkedIn platform. So many people would know that traditionally LinkedIn wasn't about content creation. It was all about profile optimization, having the right words on your profile, which still matters. But what's happened in recent years is that LinkedIn has very much become a content haven. So very much like other platforms, what that simply means is that users come to the LinkedIn platform to gain access to content that they believe is of value to them and or of interest to them. So what's happened during the last couple of months is we've seen more people enter into the content creation space on the LinkedIn platform, which is great. In particular, I know myself personally, hey AK, hey Linda, I've certainly seen a lot of CEOs start to come out and create really authentic content on the LinkedIn platform, which is great, but we didn't see this pre-COVID. And the other thing that started to happen over the last couple of months as a result of people spending more time online, more people creating content, and therefore there's more content to consume, what's happened as a result of that is that a lot of us are experiencing virtual fatigue. I first heard this referred to as Zoom fatigue by a colleague, I believe, but I'd like to broaden it and say that it's virtual fatigue. Some of you probably much like me. Hello, everyone who's coming in. Tamer, we've got Lamarana, we've got Julio, hello everyone, Adrian. So with virtual fatigue, what's happening is probably much like me, many of you have probably experienced where you've subscribed or RSVP'd, I should say, to multiple webinar events. You get onto the webinar events, you feel virtually exhausted, so you just drop off or you don't listen to what's being said. This is real, and this isn't just happening in the webinar environment, it's also happening in the social media environment. So what I wanted to share with you today was a couple of things that may be of value to some of you when it comes to thinking about how you're using social media platforms like LinkedIn and how you're deploying content to really try and accommodate for what's happening across the world at the moment. So the first thing I want to share with you is the power of newsjacking. Now, newsjacking is not something new. It's been around forever. And what it simply means is that you exploit news headlines to create content to ensure that you are engaging people who are interested in, if you want to call it, current affairs. And you use current affairs as a way to attract an audience and then engage them with your content. Now, this is something, as I mentioned, that's been around forever. A lot of people use it. It's highly effective. So you can use this as a way to create a seamless point of commonality between, a broader audience and yourself as, say, a content creator or a professional on the platform. But what you do want to be mindful of when it comes to newsjacking is something that is working right now and has always worked, is it doesn't particularly translate to business results. So you do need to be mindful of that, particularly if you are trying to work to get an immediate return on investment and result from your activity on a platform like LinkedIn. You can use newsjacking, but I would encourage you to not make all of your content about current affairs and all the global headlines, but think about how you can get creative in terms of connecting current affairs globally with your content, with your unique value proposition so that you can engage an audience and show that you are considerate to what's happening in the world. Another thing that's really working on at the moment on LinkedIn is the polls feature. So as a lot of you probably know, you can now create polls on LinkedIn, much like you have been able to on, say, the likes of Facebook for quite some time. Now, the reason polls are really great, and I've been playing around with these for maybe 2 months now, is that what I've really identified is that they're more mentally stimulating for a user to engage with than when someone might traditionally or ordinarily like a post. So if you, for example, deploy a poll on the LinkedIn platform, say, for example, me as a user, if I would ordinarily like your content, not comment, just like it, when you deploy a poll, it's the same energy requirement for me, maybe a little bit more because I might have to really think about what question you're asking before I submit my answer. But in terms of the action from me as an audience member, I still have to do the same thing as liking a post. I just press one button. So the power of polls is that you can actually more comprehensively engage people in your content by getting them to share with you their perspectives, their opinions on whatever topic it is that you're exploring. But it's the same amount of energy from a physical action point of view for them, but it is more mentally stimulating. So if that doesn't make sense, let me know. If you have any further questions on polls, please do pop them in the comments. But I would encourage you to experiment with polls and see how you can integrate them into your broader content marketing strategy on the LinkedIn platform, particularly for, say, if you're in the stage of a business, no matter how mature your business is, where you're wanting to sort of test the market, do some research, gain some insights in relation to what's sort of top of mind, I would encourage you to use polls because it's quite an effective way to do it. Now, the last thing I want to share with you that's really working on LinkedIn at the moment is meaningful conversations. Now, a lot of people know that the age-old sentiment, hi everyone, hi Stephanie, we've got Martin, Fred, Victoria, hello, Yasu Takanis. Great, thanks everyone for jumping on. So there's an age-old sentiment with LinkedIn that everyone's on there to sell. Now, it's safe to say that most people on the LinkedIn platform are very much in a business and or career and or deal flow mindset when they're on the platform, which usually means that they are more receptive to content pertaining to those things. But what's important to be mindful of at the moment is the world has gone into a state of shock, largely. The world has drastically changed. There is a lot of uncertainty. There is a lot of discomfort. There is a lot of fear. There are all sorts of feelings that most people wouldn't classify as normal for us to feel at this scale and to this extent. So I would certainly encourage you to think about not doing the hard sell. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Everett. Not doing the hard sell on LinkedIn at the moment. So as tempting as it may be, and, you know, a lot of people are in the position where they're really trying to go hard with hard selling online because everyone's online, so they think it's the perfect time to do it. But depending on your profession and your business and whatever situation you're in, I'd be mindful of doing the hard sell in any situation. And what that means, what's really working right now is having meaningful conversations. So discovering ways in which you can spark meaningful conversations that really demonstrate the humanness of yourself and or of your business and your brand. That's what people are really receptive to at the moment. So I would encourage everyone to be thinking about how they can do that. But that's sort of the high level from me in terms of some things that are working. So newsjacking, the polls feature, and creating meaningful conversations, doing it through content, doing it through direct message, even generating meaningful conversations in the comment section of a post is really important. Don't commoditize people. Don't treat them just like a number. It's a really sensitive time in the world right now, so we all need to be really considerate of that. And people want to connect with the person beyond the profile more than ever because we've all been feeling deprived of human connection in the last couple of months. Now, just because I haven't been on that long, so I'm going to squeeze in a couple of more insights, if you like, and tips from my end. So some simple ways to amplify your content. And I'm not looking away from you guys. I'm referring to my deck from last night's presentation. So a couple of things when it comes to amplifying your content. Hi, Everett, Divya, Alexandra. Thanks, guys. So think about the most important things when it comes to trying to amplify your content is really thoughtfully considering the opening statement for your captions. Whether you're sharing a video, you're sharing an article, you're sharing a plain text post, doesn't matter the scenario. Now, the reason this is important is because when people are on social media platforms, including LinkedIn, often what happens is we spend most of our time in the newsfeed, which means we're constantly just passively scrolling. So you've probably found yourself before sitting there just scrolling the newsfeed, not even really paying attention to what's passing you by. So we're always fighting for attention in the newsfeed. That's how we're going to be most discovered. And when it comes to the newsfeed, of course, if you have video or another visual asset attached to a post that you publish, you have a greater capacity to capture someone's attention. And one of the really simple reasons as to why is because you actually take up more space for each post in the newsfeed. Insight tip if you hadn't thought about that. But when it comes to your captions, usually it's the first sort of 2 to 3 sentences or lines of text in a caption that people are going to see first. So you really need to thoughtfully consider what the opening statement for all of your captions is, because it will give you the opportunity to think more creatively as to how you can compel people and entice people to consume more of that piece of content. Another simple way to amplify your content when it comes to video in particular is one, thinking about the thumbnail. So what's the first visual that someone sees on your video content? Because again, that's the first thing they'll come across in the newsfeed. So you want it to be as compelling and captivating as possible. I'm actually quite well known for, some time ago, I used to always start videos doing something a little bit weird just to capture attention in the newsfeed. It's quite effective. It works. I don't recommend, though, that everyone starts doing this at the start of their videos because it might not be relevant to you. But when it comes to videos, a simple way to amplify the success of your videos is to ensure that you're succinct and you're as high energy as possible. Now, that doesn't mean you maybe have to be as energetic and overwhelming maybe as someone like me, but you want to be what's comfortable for you when it comes to high energy. The reason being is we all know that there's nothing worse than watching a video or even attending a webinar or something to that effect, and the person who is speaking to you has absolutely no energy about them, so it's not engaging. So you want to think about that. And the other thing is, when you do videos, you don't want to burn time at the start of the video. So what that means is you want to get straight into it. A lot of data out there suggests that if you don't capture someone's attention in the first, 90 seconds, not even 90 seconds, 3 seconds. I'm thinking of another statistic. If you don't capture someone's attention in the first 3 seconds, it's reported that you've lost their attention. So always think about that. The other thing you can think about doing is, when it comes to amplifying your content, is reacting to your own post. Now, many of you have probably seen this before, where when someone publishes something, they'll be the first to like and comment on their own post. It is effective for a couple of reasons, but mind you, it's not as effective as it once was. It has changed. I believe largely because the algorithms are getting smarter and they're really identifying that. But it is still effective in the sense that it can really sort of create a more warm environment for people to express their thoughts and feelings and perspectives and responses if they see you commenting on your own content. So don't underestimate the power of that. And from a really basic level with the algorithms, it does in effect tell the algorithms that that piece of content has already received engagement. So you can think about that. We've got Divya here saying grab attention in as less as 3 seconds. Yeah, that's a great point. So we don't have much time. So you always want to be engaging from the outset, whether it's in written form, visual form, etc. The other thing you can think about when it comes to amplifying your content is hashtags. Use hashtags all the time. So I won't dive into the technical details, one, because I'm not an expert, and two, because we'll be here forever. But hashtags are really important when it comes to the configuration of algorithms. So hashtags, in effect, are used to aggregate content of similar themes, if you like, or similar topics from a user consumption perspective. But with the algorithms, hashtags are largely used when it comes to recommendation systems and for the algorithm to learn about your behaviors on the platform and the behavior of other consumers. So, for example, if I put hashtag cybersecurity with my content, I am in effect telling LinkedIn that this content is relevant to the topic of hashtag cybersecurity. Further, what I'm telling LinkedIn is that other people who are interested in hashtag cybersecurity or have indicated they're interested in it by engaging with content with hashtag cybersecurity before, well, they might be interested in this content. So the important thing is that you use hashtags, but that you are also very specific about which hashtags you use. I often speak about micro hashtags and macro hashtags. So micro hashtags are very niche focused, like something like cybersecurity, where it's a very focused hashtag and it's not, of general interest in most cases. A macro hashtag is something that has greater appeal, macro appeal, like hashtag business or hashtag marketing. So important to think about hashtags and pay attention to what ones that you notice provide you with better performance on content. And in particular, look out for getting notifications from LinkedIn that you have a piece of content trending under hashtag ABC. Because if you get that notification from LinkedIn, you want to pay attention to it and you want to continue exploiting that hashtag. The last piece of the puzzle that I'll share with you when it comes to amplifying your content is respond to your community. So if someone affords the time to put a comment on your post, and before I proceed with this, I'm actually going to make the note that I'm not as good at this as I once was. I can't tell you how much time I spent on LinkedIn in the early days responding to every single piece of content, every single comment. I would go back to content every couple of weeks and see if there were new comments that had arisen, and I would make sure I responded to them. Highly valuable and highly important, because if someone gives you their time of day to put a comment on your content, you should respond to them. You should acknowledge them, particularly if they're adding value to the conversation. So really important to think about. One of the sayings is posting and ghosting, and sort of the industry advice is don't do it. Don't post and ghost. So pay attention to what people are saying, because you'll also be amazed at what you can learn from your community as well, in terms of what content is actually valuable. Because sometimes we can get tunnel vision and we think, oh, this video is great or this article's great. But if the engagement's not there, then that's probably the community or your audience indicating to you that it's not as maybe valuable as you once thought. Or maybe you need to pivot that piece of content and adjust it and iterate further. So some important things to think about. I'm just going to quickly check the comments, but thank you everyone for jumping on live. I'm really enjoying this. It's been a long time. Always busy with the Reboot Show, for those of you who don't know. Technology TV show with my partners Luke Stowe and Amy Smith. So we are on every week. Thank you very much, Martin. Beautiful. It's great. Sorry, guys, just bear with me. Beautiful. What do we got here? Yes, and let me know where you're coming in from. Vancouver. Beautiful. My pleasure, Everett. So here we go. We've got a comment from Divya saying, yeah, polls work truly well on LinkedIn. It does attract a lot of attention and engagement on your content. Yeah, brilliant call out. They certainly do. For what it's worth, there's insight on average. The polls that I've been experimenting with, on average, they'll get about 160 votes, and I usually run them with the 3-day lifespan. So if that's any sort of insight for benchmarking for yourself, but that doesn't mean I'm the queen of polls. Beautiful. Newsjacking can get you featured on LinkedIn Editor's Choice, as well as a lot of engagement on LinkedIn featured news. Thank you very much, Divya, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. A really, really good point. So yeah, think about newsjacking. If you missed the beginning of this live stream, you can go back to the beginning. It's one of the first things I cover off. Generate meaningful conversations in the commentary, yield quick attention. Agree. Thank you very much. Amplifying content, beautiful. So I don't think there's any questions. It's a great idea. Yeah, to put a thumbnail into your original videos. YouTube thumbnails are not shown on LinkedIn, so put your thumbnail in the video itself. Yeah, great call out. Thumbnails are really important. So for those of you who maybe don't know, thumbnail is sort of like the holding visual on a piece of content. So you want to think about that. And usually by default, when you upload a video to LinkedIn, unlike YouTube where it might naturally pick a thumbnail if you don't customize it from somewhere within the video, on LinkedIn the thumbnail is always the first 0 second of the video. So you always want to think about that. Yep, so many videos I click off after 4 seconds. Great, me too. Grab attention, listen to. Hashtags are important for the algorithm. Yes, I love Divya's point here. Great call out in terms of how many hashtags. So particularly if you're active on the Instagram platform, you probably know that on there you're sort of permitted to use up to 30 hashtags within the comment of the caption of a post. 30 hashtags is not best practice for LinkedIn. To Divya's point, I always recommend 3 to 5, no more than 5. First 3 are the most important on the basis that they are included in the URL for the post when you copy and paste the URL. So if you want to look at it from a really basic SEO perspective, first 3 are most important to Divya's point. So don't go overboard, because the other thing is hashtags on LinkedIn are very infant in nature. It's not like Instagram where they're quite mature and you have a lot of hashtag variations. They're still quite immature on LinkedIn. So you don't want to confuse the algorithms as well. If you want to find out what hashtags might be of value to you, you can always use the search feature on LinkedIn, search the hashtag, see how many people are following it, see what content's coming up under those hashtags, and that'll give you some pretty quick insight into maybe what's happening there and maybe how relevant it is for you, and therefore if you should experiment with that. What's the most creative video meeting you have seen or been a part of, and what made it so creative? That's a great question, Gabe. I'm going to have to think about that one and come back to you, to be honest. Yeah, really. I've played around with so many different video conferencing platforms in the last couple of months, probably much like many of you. I will have to say that I really enjoyed the virtual event I was at with She Mentors last night because it was all women on the call. So I really enjoyed that. It was great to sort of come together with a community of women, especially during this time. But I'll have to think about that one, Gabe, and come back to you. What have we got here? Thank you very much, Katerina. Okay, beautiful. Well, I'm going to jump off, guys. If you have any other questions, feel welcome to pop them in the comments below and I will come back to you in comment form. Thank you very much for joining me today. If you are coming in live, drop a 1 below. If you're coming in on the replay, drop a 2 below. And as always, let myself and everyone else know where you're coming in from. But I hope everyone takes care and has a great day.